All right. Today we're going to cover rules 6 through 12. But before we get into that, rule changes for 2019 and 2020. So y'all might hear these later on if you go to the state rules meeting or if you view it online. But new this year, when a ball strikes the cable and or the diagonal poles used to retract ceiling suspended net systems, which by the way we don't have any here, the referee will stop play and determine if the ball was playable. The referee will signal out of bounds or replay. The rationale is it establishes the cables and diagonal poles used to retract suspended net systems as restricted play and aligns officials' treatment of a ball striking either the cables and or the diagonal poles. Like I said, we do not have any in this area, but you might go somewhere where there is one, out of state or something if for whatever reason. So that just lets you know. The other one is the solid color uniform requirements we've used in the past. That establishes that the libero uniform must clearly contrast with his or her teammates' uniforms and reorganizes the legal uniform rule. In other words, we don't have to worry about solid and multicolored anymore. They just have to contrast. Okay, so there for a while we had to have a solid color and a multicolor. Now it doesn't matter. Just make sure they are contrasting. The second one is they're eliminating the use of 00 as a uniform number option. Okay, they said it was causing too much confusion between 0 and 00, so no longer able to use 00 as a number for volleyball. Here's one for 2023. I'll go ahead and read it since they're going ahead and putting it out there. Beginning with the 2023 season, the body of the uniform number must clearly contrast with the uniform top regardless of borders. This will eliminate the allowance of borders to provide contrast between the number and the uniform number. And this is following some of the other rule codes that are out there. What you have is you have a number, maybe it has a black border around it, but it's the same color as what the jersey is. Okay, so the number is the same, even though it had, maybe it's a white jersey, it has a black border around it, but the number itself is white. It must contrast now. Okay, now or in 2023. Sorry. So just something coming down the pipe. That's 4 years away, but they're just letting us know that that's coming. This is one that we talked about collecting rosters, or we're actually going to talk about them tonight. Requires the second referee to collect team rosters at the pre-match conference while allowing changes to be made until 10 minutes remain in the pregame clock, and establishes lineups to be submitted to the second referee before each set. So the rationale there is that it eliminates warm-up interruptions by officials requesting the rosters with 10 minutes remaining on the warm-up clock, allowing for a smoother warm-up. Because remember, it was always 10 minutes before. Well, when did the warm-up start? 12 minutes before, because it's 5-5-2. Remember, it's 5 on one side, 5 on the other, then 2 minutes shared. So they would get started warming up, and you'd be over asking for rosters if they hadn't already turned it in. So now, starting this year, whenever the coaches come to the pre-match conference, they should bring their rosters, and then that way you don't have to interrupt them if they're trying to run their warm-ups or whatever. So this rule establishes that the line judge can take their position and move in line with the extension of the end line when the ball is being served near the line judge's position, replacing the old technique that you move directly in line with the sideline back behind them, okay? And again, that's getting in line with all the other rule codes. Every other single rule code says move out to the side. That way, you can watch their feet better, okay, on the serve. So you should train your line judges to just take 1 or 2 steps out and then get back up on their corner, okay? So if some of you have worked club, if you work club, it's the same exact thing. This rule establishes that the ball remains dead when tossed for serve and it touches any part of the backboard or supports hanging in a vertical position over the serving area and is an illegal serve, signal 13, and not a service fault. Okay? Actually accurately reflects the action since the ball is not contacted for serve. So this has been in the rules for a while. There's just clearing up, what signal you would give and whether it's a service fault or a illegal serve. Remember, if they toss a ball but you throw it up, it hits that backboard, hits the rim, hits the net, whatever, blow the ball dead, illegal serve, and the ball's over here. Okay? All right, rule number 6. Anybody got rule books? All right, rule number 6. Team members consist of all school representatives located on the team bench, including but not limited to coaches, trainers, players, assistant coaches, managers. Anybody that's on the school bench basically is team members if they are on that team bench. Okay, that's what they're recognized as. Players are the teammates currently located on the court. So that kind of differentiates who's players and who's teammates. And looking through the rules, you kind of see when they differentiate, players do something and then teammates do something. So if a team has fewer than 6 players to begin the match, a forfeit is declared. Okay? So they have to have 6 players to start the match. You can actually, there's a couple of things you can do there. If they don't have 6 players, they can call their timeout. Okay? Then if there still isn't 6 players, they can call their second timeout. Okay? But at the end of that, the match is forfeited. All right? Now, if they've called up, let's say somebody's going from Ponca City to Tulsa to play a match, their bus breaks down or something, and some of the players get there because they're riding with parents. As long as it's been communicated to the host school that, hey, there's a problem, we're going to give them time to get there. Okay, we're not going to penalize them because they had a broken down bus or something. Okay, but if it's they just brought 5 players, and maybe somebody else was bringing, a couple other players, it's their responsibility to get there on time. So they have to have 6 to start. So what happens if they're playing, they have 6, and somebody gets hurt or somebody gets sick or something like that, and then they only have 5? What happens? Okay. Okay. So what happens is you're playing, let's say it's the left front player that gets hurt. Okay, so the person that's in the 4th spot is what, okay, gets hurt, she's out, they only have 5 players. That doesn't mean that's left back player can come up and play front. If she comes up and plays and she hits a ball in the front zone above the height of the net, it's still a back row attack, illegal back row attack, okay, because that's not her position. But as they rotate through, as soon as that player gets around to that right back position to serve, what you would do is, let's say they're on my right side. So you've awarded point because this team let the ball drop or whatever. You've awarded point because the ball was down. You're immediately going to whistle and award point. And I think it's a rotation, if I remember correctly. Okay? Because there's no server there. All right. And then they continue playing. And then as they rotate around, whenever she gets back to that right back position again, you're going to do the exact same thing. They can continue playing. Matter of fact, they can continue playing as long as they have players. You know, somebody else gets hurt, somebody else gets sick, you still do the same procedure. What you do is you just have to keep track of where they are on the court and make sure that none of these back row players come up and play front row. There's always a captain designated. Should be designated on the lineup whenever the coach hands in the lineup. Remember, the captain is the only person that can come over and talk to you as far as, you know, if they have a question or if she feels like, you know, something should have been called or something is wrong. Do they need a lineup check? Do they need a timeout? Whatever. She's the one that can come and talk to you. All right? Not just whatever other girl is on the court. And they will try, and you'll need to shut them down and say, no, wait, you're not the captain. You know, I can talk to the captain, but I can't talk to you. Okay? So just be aware of who your captains are. If the captain gets subbed out for any reason, you need to make sure a new captain gets designated, because if you don't, nobody can talk to you. Okay? So you need to be aware of that as an R1, because you need to know who can come and talk to you. The R2 needs to be aware of that so that whenever they sub out, he can go over to the coach and go, hey, coach, I need a new captain. Hopefully, whenever that happens, your scorekeeper is back here going, we need a new captain. You know, that was the captain. Captain just went out. And she's helping you on that. But that doesn't always happen. So you need to be aware that that's happening, and then get a new captain out there so that they're represented if any questions come up. Okay. Only one libero designated per set in high school. Some of the other rule codes you can designate two, but in high school, only one. So one libero in high school can be designated as a libero. They can switch them out in between sets, no big deal. The thing with that is that they have to go back to a dressing room or a restroom or something to change their top. They cannot change it right there on the bench. That is a yellow card immediately. Can't happen in high school. All the other rule codes, it happens right there on the bench, but not in high school. Not allowed. A libero is a defensive specialist. Okay, they can only play back row. Libero can only serve for one position. Okay, the libero can come up and play. Some people say, well, she can't get up in front of the 10-foot line. Yes, she can. She just cannot attack a ball above the height of the net. If she sets a ball with finger action in front of the 10-foot line, the attacker has to stay underneath the net. Okay? In other words, they can't jump up and kill the ball over the height of the net. Then it's a back row attack, but it's on the libero. Okay? But just a defensive specialist, they can only play back row. Okay? As soon as they rotate to the front, they should be going out. Yeah, and they usually do, because that middle knows they're supposed to come in. Usually it's for a middle, you know. All right? Is that good? Okay. So libero also has to have a contrasting jersey. Remember, we just kind of talked about the new rules. So they have to have a contrasting, you know. I just wish they would make like neon yellow or green or something. That's their color and nobody else can use it, but they don't do that. So technically, yes, because that libero is rotating to the front row. Libero can't be in the front row. So what they're doing is a replacement. Not charged as a sub. It's not a substitution. And we'll cover this some out there, okay? And we'll go through the libero replacement and substitution and all that. But the libero and the libero replacement have to go in on the sideline between the in line and the attack line. Okay, and like I said, we'll go over that. But it has to be the player that the libero replaced. Okay? It can't just be anybody off the bench.
Oh, okay.
It has to be that person they replaced unless the libero is going back to serve. And then you have what's called a double replacement. The two middles just kind of switch. The middle that's going back to serve, she goes out, the other middle comes in, and the libero stays in and serves. Y'all will see that. Okay, it's okay. As long as they don't do it, the next time the middle comes around. Okay? The libero can be a team captain. All right? So no big deal there. Just remember, whenever she goes out, they need to have a captain designated for when she goes out. And normally, if I see that, he's got a C by the libero, I'll go to the coach and I'll go, who is your captain whenever the libero is off the court? Okay? So just find that out and let them know. And sometimes they'll put an A next to one of the other numbers of the regular players. That's their captain whenever she goes out. So no big deal there. All right? All the players, including the libero, have to be in service order, of course. We'll kind of go through that out there also. A request for the team serving order may be made by that team's coach or playing captain while the ball is dead. So the captain can request a service order check, okay, just to make sure they're in place. The captain can also request if the other team is using the correct server. She can't ask for a lineup check for them, but she can ask if that's the correct server for that team. Okay, kind of odd, but she can. They need to go through the R2. So the question is, if there's a problem with the score sheet, who can the coach ask about, to check it? If you have an R2, they should ask the R2 because that's who's really in charge of the scorekeepers. But if you're working by yourself, he would probably send his captain over and ask you to go check the score sheet. Okay. Rule 6 covers a thing called screening. Okay? And screening is when you have players standing at the net close to each other, hands up, okay, and a ball is served on a low trajectory directly over, okay? Remember I said low trajectory. It's got to be a hard serve. It can't be a lollipop serve up over them and in, okay? That's no big deal. That's okay. But if they're standing there like that, I will always warn a team first. If a captain on another team comes and says, hey, they're screening us. Okay, captain, come here. Other side is complaining that you're screening. You need to take action not to do that. Okay, I don't tell them to bend over. I don't tell them to separate because to me that's coaching. I'm not allowed to coach the other team. Okay. But I will tell them they need to take steps to, not be screening. Can one person create a screen? Yes. You think not, but there are a couple of instances where they can. If I were to be there and let's say there's a player in front of me and we're just standing there, that's not a screen. Okay? If I'm just standing here and they're standing there, that's not a screen. So one person cannot do a screen that way. It's up to that person to move to where they can see the ball. But if they move and I move with them, that's a screen. Okay? Because you're keeping them from seeing the ball. Or if I'm sitting there and jumping right there in front of them, waving my arms, something like that, that's a screen. Okay? So, the case book, let me get back over here. The case book can be confusing at times, but read each situation and read one thing on it and then look at the answer, okay? Here's the situation. Center front on team R claims right front on team S, who is standing close to the net but not jumping or waving, is screening the center front view of the server. And the ruling is no screen. Comment. No player on the receiving team is entitled to a specific position on the court. If a player on the receiving team cannot see the server, that player should move. If after that player moves, the serving team's player moves to take another position which blocks that player's view of the server and the flight of the ball, the first referee shall call screening. So the question was, could I just go ahead and call a captain over and warn them about it? Sure, I could. But normally I'll wait for the team to tell me, hey, they're having a problem. Okay. Now, in between sets, if I'm down, maybe I'm working the match by myself. So I'm down to check the lineups for the next set. I might say something to the coach. Hey, coach, you really need to take, you've got a screen going on. You really need to take some kind of action to separate those girls or whatever. All right. But yeah, I could call a captain over, and that's what I would do if the other team complained about it. I would go ahead and say, captain, come here. The other team is complaining about screening. You're really close. You need to take steps to prevent me calling a screen, or so that you aren't screening. It would be a penalty if they did it again after I've warned them. Let's say that it's the right-hand team that does it. As soon as they serve the ball, blow the whistle, the ball is here because I have screening, which is the back row block signal also, okay? So it's a dual purpose signal, but this is screening, okay? Yeah, I've had teams come over and say, hey, they're screening, and yeah, I've got 3 players right here in the middle of the net, but where's the server serving the ball? She's serving over here, and she's serving over here. Okay, it's not over them, so it's not a screen. Okay, and the coach is over there. They're screening, coach. It's not a screen. They're not serving over them. They're serving to the side of them. Okay, so it's not a screen. The other team gets a point. You award the ball to the other team, and remember, every time you award the ball to a team, they get a point. It's called rally scoring. So a point is awarded every play, whether it's to the serving team or whether it's to the receiving team. Okay? So, yeah, I mean they give a point to the other team and they lose their serve. So, Rule 7, roster and lineup. Remember we said rule change this year, Mike. The roster is to be handed in at the pre-match conference. All right? That way we don't disturb them whenever they're trying to warm up and stuff like that. So roster in at that. Then your lineups are in at 2 minutes before the end of the time to warm up. So for us, high school runs a 5-5-2. Okay? 5 minutes for one team, 5 minutes for the other team, 2 minutes shared serving at each other. All right? So when you start the 2 minutes shared serving at each other, those lineups should be coming. The lineups are still at 2 minutes before the end of the warm-ups. And then in between sets, it's a minute before the start of the next set. Okay? So 3 minutes in between sets. So whenever that clock is counting down and it gets down to 1 minute, they should have their lineups in. Written lineup shall not be changed except between sets of a match and no later than 1 minute remaining in the timed interval or intermission when used. That's in between sets, okay? Except for a legal substitution prior to the start of a set or to replace a starting player who is injured or ill prior to the start of a set, okay? So let's say he wrote the lineup down wrong. He put 12 in and he really meant to put 10 in. And he looks out there and you're checking the lineup, and I mean the lineup's right, and then he goes, "Oh, wait a minute. I want to put 10 in." You can do a sub before the set starts and put 10 in for 12. Cost him a sub. Or what if he writes the lineup down just completely wrong? He wanted 12 in there, but he puts 10. He doesn't have a 10. You can do a sub and correct that lineup. Okay? It cost him a sub, but you can correct it to where the correct player is in there. You can sub in one set. You can sub 18 times.
Oh, okay.
It is very rare in high school that you run out of subs. They do once in a while, but it's rare. All the numbers have to be different. Okay? Even the libero cannot have the same number as somebody else. So everybody's number must be unique to them. So you need to make sure you do that. Sometimes coaches get messed up and they put 2 10s down on the lineup. I don't know why, but it happens. And you can do a sub for that. Oh, I meant 12 to be in this spot. Okay. So, sometimes they make the libero and a starting player the same number. And you ask him, do you want your libero to be a libero, or do you want him to be the back row player or whatever? I want her to be the libero. Okay, we need a sub for 10 in the back row. Okay, I want it to be 12. Okay, we do a phantom sub, okay, and do a sub and put that player in. All right, these are all fixable problems. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of situations. First situation, Team A has 6 players. After the set begins, player number 6 is injured and unable to play. Later during the set, player number 25 arrives. Player number 25 is not listed on the roster. Can they play?
They have to put them on the roster.
They can be added to the roster. Okay? But to enter the set, in order to add them to the roster, it costs them a point because the roster is not correct. Okay? So they would lose a serve if they were serving when they put her in. So the ball would go to the other side. Or if the other team was serving, they would get a point. What if she's listed on the roster, she just wasn't there whenever play started? Just sub her in. No big deal. Doesn't cost her a point. Nothing. She's on the roster. We don't care. She can play. All right? Just sub her in 10's place or whatever and go. All right, another situation. Player number 2 of Team A has excessive blood on the uniform top. Team A's coach substitutes player number 5 for player number 2, then directs player number 2 to go to the locker room and replace the uniform top by putting on player number 15's jersey, and player number 15 puts on a plain T-shirt. Legal or not legal? Huh? It's legal. It's legal because of the blood. You can change the uniform top, correct the roster because of the blood. Okay, you've got to put in her number that she's playing under now, and it's legal, but 15 doesn't get to play now. She's out. Okay, she's just sitting the bench or whatever. She's done. Team S coach submits his or her lineup. While checking the lineup, the R2 notices that the Team S has player number 7 listed on the lineup starting in the right front position. Player number 12 is on the court. Team S does not have a player number 7. The R2 allows Team S to make the change with no penalty and count number 12's entry as a substitution. That's good. Yeah, no problem. That's that phantom sub we were talking about. Okay? All right? Team S does not have a player number 7. The R2 informs the coach there is a loss of rally point penalty for having submitted an inaccurate lineup, but number 12 can remain in the set and is not counted towards the 18 allowed substitutions. Right or wrong? Wrong. You can still do the phantom sub. So what the R2 did is incorrect. All right? Okay, so the roster and the lineup should stay at the table during play. Okay? They should always remain at the table. They don't get to, you don't check the lineups and then go and give them to the coaches. Okay? They stay at the table. So in this situation, between sets, the coach takes the combined roster and lineup, and this is what it looks like. So you have a place to put your roster, and then you have a place to write your lineups. Okay? All right? Takes the combined roster and lineup sheet from the officials table to prepare his or her lineup for the next set. Is that okay? Sure. We don't care. Because what's he going to do? He's going to bring it right back to you. Okay? So in that instance, that's okay. No big deal. All right? So since it's a combined roster and lineup, we allow that to happen. Okay? So we're talking about the serve. The server shall hit the ball with one hand, fist, or arm while the ball is held or after it's released by the server. Okay? So she can't throw it up and bump it over. Okay? So demonstrate that if you can.
Oh.
See, you can't do that.
Fault.
All right. It has to be just an overhand serve. Okay. It has to be thrown up, or it can be hit underhand out of her hand. No big deal.
You can do an underhand serve?
She can.
Yeah.
I teach.
That's cool.
Yeah. Okay. So how long do you get the server ball after you've been called to serve the ball? 5 seconds. All right. 1.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5. What was that? About 8 seconds? 9, 8, 9. Okay. All right. It's slow. Okay. So you're going to award. I'm not holding that, Benjamin. Okay. So let's say I'm on the stand, which is over there. This team over here is serving. Okay. She fiddles with it. She doesn't serve it in 5 seconds. Tweak. Ball is here. 5 seconds. Okay? And make sure on all your signals, remember what we talked about the very first week. Practice your signals in front of a mirror at home. Okay? Because you don't want to be doing this. All right? Thumb in, fingers together. Drop the signal. Do your other signal. Okay? So don't be doing 2 signals at once. It's 1 signal at a time. All right? Normally during varsity matches, I have an R2. I should. We try to make sure we always assign 2 for varsity. Server has to serve within the serving area. Yeah. Okay. So the serving area is where?
The
Sideline
blue
to
dash.
sideline.
Yeah, the blue dash.
See the little dashes, right?
Right.
Okay, so the dash is, kind of designating where it's at. Okay. So is that legal?
No, she's out.
No, it's legal.
Oh, she's good.
Oh,
She's legal.
She has to be over the line. Okay. She is now, but
Okay.
before she was like that. She was on the line. That is legal. Okay. But if she goes over like that, she's illegal. Now you've got girls that start out way out, and if they come around, that's legal. Okay. Okay, on a jump serve. As long as long as she takes off behind the line and doesn't touch the line, she can contact the ball out here and land out here. But she has to take off behind the line and not touch it.
So if I take off,
You're still
That's an illegal. That's an illegal.
Foot fault.
because I'm taking off.
If we have a foot fault, okay, that she's going to wave the flag and point at the line. Okay? Same thing with the antenna faults. Same signal, but she's going to point at the antenna. Okay, so if the ball hits the antenna, outside of the antenna, directly over the antenna, you know, point and wave, and you can call that one too. Even if you're over here, you might have the best look at a ball coming this way. All right, so you're going to point and wave that one. All right. Term of service. All right. So a player's term of service begins when they go back there to serve. Means when they have just rotated back there and they're going to start serving. And their term of service lasts as long as they're serving. The term of service is however long you're back there serving and lasts until you lose the serve. All right? So you get one retoss, okay, or reserve per term of service. All right? So you understand? As long as she's back there serving, she gets one reserve. All right? So she let it drop. It does not have to drop. In high school, you can catch it. She can actually throw it up and start to serve and try and get out of the way, and it can touch her. Okay? I mean, knee or shoulder or something, as long as she doesn't try to serve, swing at the ball. Okay? But if she swings at the ball and it comes down and hits her, if she swings and misses and it does not touch her, illegal serve is what it is. Okay. Sub. Rachel for Megan. You don't have to do it, just go. All right. So Megan's been serving. She hasn't lost her serve yet. But Rachel's going back there. So does she get a reserve? She does also. She's already had a reserve. Can she have another reserve?
I'm gonna say no.
No. Because she's still in her term of service. Even if she's been subbed out and she comes back in, she does not get another reserve. You start counting when you call for serve. You blow your whistle and you call for serve, which is what this is. You stick your arm out, tweet. They don't
But
hear
they'll
the
usually
whistle.
check with you. Did you?
They look up at you and they're like, "Did you blow?" I'm like, "Yeah." So that she serves it real quick. Okay. Okay. Remember what we said about tossing it up into the backboard. Okay. Immediately blow the whistle. Ball is here because we have the illegal service.
Then it's the same thing.
Okay. Even if it hits the net, that's associated with the backboard. Doesn't matter. If she tosses it really high and hits the stuff way up there, okay, on a serve, that's an illegal serve. A serve is illegal and remains dead. Okay, so this is illegal serve. If she hits the ball illegally, is touching the inline or the floor outside the serving area when the ball is contacted. Or if she starts off, okay, you see the metal strip back there right in front of where she's standing? The only thing you're allowed to play in this gym is the wood floor, because that's a change of surface. High school does not allow a change of surface. But don't let her start back there. That's illegal. All right?
And if she steps
So then
back,
if she
too,
serves,
it's
she
illegal
touches
serve.
the line, or it's outside the line, not the top. That's an illegal serve. Doesn't contact the ball to serve within 5 seconds. Is out of the serving order. Okay? If it's a wrong server back there. Deliberately serves before the first referee signal to begin serve. Okay? Now, girls, they get back there and they're sitting there bouncing the ball, and maybe you're doing a tournament and somebody behind you whistles. And they're like, oh, okay. And they can start serving. Tweet, 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 tweet. Ladies, I didn't call. I didn't blow. But if she just, she looks at you and she just serves, just because she wanted to, then you could give her a yellow card. If they were to serve the ball and you hadn't blown, it's just tweet, 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 tweet. Get the ball back to her and go. Or if she releases the ball for contact, catches it more than once or twice, more than once, then it's going to be an illegal serve. All right, so a serve ball is a service fault. Okay, so you have an illegal serve, then you have a service fault. When the ball doesn't legally cross the net, so it passes under the net. Touches one of the server's teammates. So it touches the floor on the server side of the net, crosses the net, but not entirely between the net and antennas. It lands out of bounds. Okay, so she serves it, but it goes over here. Never crosses the antenna. Touches the ceiling or any obstructions, backboard, service area. Okay, so those are service faults. If it goes into the net, bounces out, touches the player on their side, goes under the net, hits the floor, goes out over there, doesn't go past the plane of the net. That's just ball here. And it's like a net fault, but you don't have to touch the net. Okay, it's just net fault. Okay, because it didn't go over. If it touches the tape and goes over, that's okay. They changed that rule several years ago. Wow. Used to, we had to keep our finger on the top of the net to make sure it didn't touch the net, as it was served. We don't have to do that anymore. A couple of things to remember. We haven't talked about out of rotations or anything, but when the receiving team player is out of position on the serve, so let's say they're out of rotation, all right, and a ball is served illegally, so an illegal serve, the serving team is penalized, okay, because she didn't serve the ball legally. That's when she throws it up and it hits the backboard. That's when she steps on the line. That's when she's out of whatever. She hits it with two hands, whatever, okay? Now, but when they're out of position on the serve and a service fault occurs, the receiving team is penalized. Okay? And the reason is she served the ball legally, but they committed the fault. If you're working by yourself, I always look, even if I have an R2, I look so that I know where's my setter. Is she front row or back row? Are they in rotation? Okay. And I'm looking at that. Okay. So if she serves the ball and has a illegal serve, it's going to be point here because it was an illegal serve. Okay. But if they're out of rotation and she has a service fault, it's going to be point here, rotation. Okay?
Even if I serve it in the net.
Even if she serves it in the net, under the net, she still gets a point. She gets a point.
That's right, I do.
Basically, they're out of rotation as soon as she contacts the ball.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what happens.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what happens with the ball. She contacted it legally. But they're at fault. It doesn't matter what the ball does. All right. During play, all non-playing team members have to be seated on the bench. All right. I saw some out here Thursday night. They were standing. There was nobody on the bench. I said, now you realize during high school, you have to be seated. Well, our coach wants us to stand. I said, I understand that. And this is a league, summer league, so we're not going to worry about it. But when we get to high school in August, you'll be seated. Remember that. If they have enough spots on the bench, they need to be seated. You know, I mean, I want my bench on the side that I'm playing on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we do in Oklahoma. They will rotate every time there's a new set. They will switch, unless it's a deciding set. And on this deciding set, you come up, your R2 administers the deciding set coin toss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Choices are serve, side, or receive if you win the coin toss. Home team gets to call because the visiting team got to call the first one. So home team gets to call. They can choose any of those three. If they decide they want to stay where they're at, fine. So what you would do is I administer the coin toss. You know, you want server, receive, or side. Well, we want to stay on this side. They think that's the lucky side. I don't know, you know. So we want to stay on this side. Okay. You want serve or receive? Well, we want serve. Okay. So I'll just look at my R1 and I'll just tell them we're staying the same. All right. Just here. And then I'll tell him serve on this side. Okay? So serve on this side. Now, what if they say, I want serve, and they go, we want to switch?
Then they do.
Okay. So I'll tell him we want to switch. Okay? So he switches them. And then whenever this team gets over there, serve on this side. I'll wait for him to switch before I tell him where the serve is. All right? But that's just so he knows who he's looking for. Okay? Can they use electronic devices on the bench? They can have electronic devices.
That's a coach.
Yeah, they can use something to keep track of stats and stuff. I mean, a lot of people use the iPads with stats. What if they came up and they disagreed with your call and they said, here's a camera, you can look at and you can see. No, we don't do that. Varsity matches, unless it's a tournament or something, all varsity matches should be 3 out of 5 in the state of Oklahoma. Sometimes in tournaments they do 2 out of 3 or just 2. Sometimes they just do 2 sets. Usually 2 out of 3. In a 2 out of 3 match, the third set should always be to 25 unless both coaches agree to only play into 15. Okay?
Before the match.
That is something that has to be established in your pre-match meeting. You can ask them if you want. Coach, you know, if there's in the event of a third set, are we playing to 25? And I would leave it at that. I wouldn't even ask them if they wanted to go 15. Are we playing to 25? And they're going to say, no, I just want to play 15. But remember, both coaches have to agree. If it's a 3 out of 5 match, you get to that 5th set, do your coin toss, figure out what you're doing, you know, who's where, who's serving. That set is the 15. We do not switch. If you choose this side, you're on this side through all the 15 points. Okay? All the other rule code switches in the deciding set. High school does not. So if they chose this side, they're on this side for the whole 3rd set or whole 5th set. Same thing with the 2 out of 3 deciding set. They're on that side. We do not switch. At the start of the 5th one,
Okay.
as soon as the 4th one's over, you're going to end the set, tweet, set, tweet, go to your benches. Okay? At that point, the R2 is going to blow his whistle, show a coin, or say captains, whatever, and he's going to have coin toss. Live and dead balls. A live ball is in play from the moment the ball is legally contacted by the correct server until a dead ball occurs. Violation, ball's down, ball's out, whatever. Okay, that's a live ball. Dead ball is declared by a referee for any decision to temporarily suspended play until the ball is legally contacted again for the serve. Okay, so we had play, ball's down, the ball is dead until I call for serve and it's contacted again. Okay, now a live ball becomes dead when the ball touches the net antennas, doesn't pass entirely between. So if a ball goes directly over the antenna, any part of the ball, okay, so a part of that ball went over the antenna. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Okay, that ball is out. It's an antenna fault. Or it goes outside of the antenna. Okay, so if it contacts the antenna, goes outside of the antenna, directly over the antenna. It's an antenna fault. Ball becomes dead. Ball contacts the ceiling or an overhead obstruction and is not legally played next by the offending team. But if it's a third hit, okay, goes up and hits an overhead obstruction, call the ball dead immediately. As soon as it crosses the net, you call the ball dead, okay? But you have to wait for it to cross the net. It may come and it's coming right here and you have a front row player that goes up and tips it. That's okay. If it hits an overhead obstruction, crosses the net,
Correct.
call the ball dead.
It doesn't have to hit the floor first.
Doesn't have to hit the floor, doesn't have to hit the plane.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Okay?
It's across the plane of the net without
So
contacting another player
therefore
on that
it's
side.
illegal on a first or second hit. Remember, on a third hit, we're calling it dead as soon as it hits.
Right.
But on a first or second hit, if it goes up and hits and then goes across the net, you're calling it dead when it crosses the net. She saves it and tips it over.
And she
And then
steps.
what? She steps on the line?
Uh-huh.
Not a violation.
What if it cannot go over the line
Like that?
and she gets it over?
Not a violation.
It's still a dead ball.
Not a violation. Violation.
The far side of that line belongs to this court. The far side this way belongs to that court. That line belongs to both courts. So until they cross completely, they're still on their court.
Remember, if a foot or hand
Mm-hmm.
is in contact with the line,
Or over the line.
above the line, it's okay. No
It's when
big
they
deal.
cross.
But what you'll see is the land, then they'll turn.
That's where you get them.
That's when they're illegal. Because see, is any part of their foot above the line now? No.
Oh, okay.
Most of the time, that is where you'll get them is when they land and turn.
Transition.
And that's their transition back off the net, and that's when you'll catch that foot or hand.
That's when it's a penalty.
Yes, ma'am. So for you, and that's a two-part question, is which happened first? So did the ball cross the plane of the net first after hitting the top, or did she have the line violation first?
Mm.
So you, as the up official, is calling the overhead obstruction violation, the out. So did you see it first, or did your down official, who's in charge of that line,
Mm-hmm.
see it first? So who whistles first?
Which is
Okay.
why it's important when you're working with a partner that you blow your whistle when the ball is dead by rule. So you need to know the definitional term. And the first whistle should have, in quotes, occurred first. Does it always happen that way? No. So sometimes you need to talk to figure out which one was first.
Yeah. Moving along. Ball contacts a wall or ceiling obstruction that is over a non-playable area. Okay? So it hits the wall back there or the support of that or whatever. That would be non-playable. Okay? Yeah, it goes back and hits above the exit sign, or the railing or whatever. That's
Or the
not
ceiling over the benches.
ceiling over the benches, back behind if they've got them pushed back and it goes back and hits the wall, non-playable. becomes motionless in the net, which is rare. Hopefully your net is tight. Or comes to rest on an overhead obstruction, which I have had. You're going to blow the ball dead. Okay, ball touches the floor, passes completely under the net, contacts a non-team member in a playable area. Okay, so you've got somebody that's just walking in front of the bleachers. All right, and somebody shanks it off, and it goes and it hits them. You're going to call the ball dead. Now, you've got one question there. Could that team have played the ball or not played the ball? Was there somebody there to play the ball? If they couldn't play the ball's out. Otherwise, it's a replay. Ball from the direction of the court breaks the plane of a non-playable area and goes beyond the legal reach of a player. Over bleachers.
Over the bench.
Out. Over the bench. Out. Over into another court. Out.
Score table.
Over the score table. Out. A referee's whistle sounds. Inadvertent whistle.
Guys, I've done this. I sneezed and whistled. Okay, it happens.
In the referee's judgment, a timer's audio signal interrupts play. That happens like at the start of a new set. You've got a timer timing up there, and he started it at 3. Both teams came out at 2. You've checked the lineups. You got the ball out there. You've called for serve. You look up, and it's hitting 1 second, and you're going. Pretty self-explanatory. You get your rule book. Call Art. Call Mike. Me. Steve. Call somebody if you have a question and talk to us. This thing is huge. I mean, this is contacting the ball. Okay. You know, what's a double, what's not a double,
Which is all your judgment anyway.
It's all judgment. What's a block, what's a pass, what's a dig, what's a set, okay? We can't go over all that, all right?
I will say one thing, Jerry. You haven't gotten notified by me yet of this, but in July, we're going to have 3 more clinics. They're optional for you, but I recommend you go if you can. There are 3 evenings in July. You'll get the dates. And typically we work a little bit more advanced information. One of them is usually alignment on the court. One of them often has to do with ball handling and doubles and things like that. So you'll get notified by me of that. Those are mostly geared towards officials that have had some experience already, but you're invited too. And you will not waste your time going to these things either, because you'll learn a little bit more about what you need to know when you're on the court. And it's especially important, those things like ball handling and alignment, because we can't really cover that sufficiently in these kind of clinics.
Okay. And want to cover unnecessary delay, okay? It doesn't happen a lot. And be kind of liberal in some of the stuff that you do, okay? In other words, don't blow them out on the court. And I mean, if they're not running out on the court, just hit them immediately, okay? You know, if they're still, you know, you whistle that the timeout is over, or you whistle that the time in between sets is over, and they come together and they do a go team or something, okay. It's okay, you know. But now if they come over, and the coach is talking, and the coach is talking, and the coach is talking, and you're kind of tweet, let's go, you know, or you're R2, you know, and he walks over there. So I mean, and my suggestion, the wording should be, ladies, let's play. So here is unnecessary delays. Delay by a team not immediately ready to start play when directed by the first referee. Delay resulting from a substitute attempting to enter, or when a player is in the set wearing illegal equipment or uniform. Earrings. Remember, though, if they are taped, we cannot ask to look under them.
So they have that type of earring in their ear that's illegal.
Oh, yeah.
No jewelry whatsoever,
No jewelry.
unless it is a medical.
If it's a medical alert bracelet or something like that, it has to be taped.
On their wrist, I know that part.
Okay? Or taped under their uniform if it's a dog tag type thing. Okay? But an earring,
Or her hair thing.
Or my hair thing.
You see it while they're in
Yes.
warm-ups.
Chad, red.
Go over, talk to the coach. Coach, hey,
Wait, I'm not putting this
9 has earrings. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'll take care of that. Okay. All you have to do is just say, I've got a delay on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you're going to point at the team.
Mm-hmm.
All
They
right?
get a point?
No.
a
No,
warning.
not for a warning.
Okay, so it's a warning.
The yellow.
Okay.
If I were to do red,
Mm-hmm.
it's a point. It's going to be on you. There's a point over here. Delay in resuming play due to a coach or a captain making excessive requests for the serving order. You know, I mean, they just cannot stay in serving order, and they keep asking every time they rotate, who's my next server? Who's my next server? The coach. You know, okay. I've told you 5 times. All right? You know, okay, delay on you. You know, I mean, delay by a team of properly completing a sub or a sub entering the court before the authorization of a referee. You'll have subs go and you're not ready for them. You're doing a sub on the other side. Call them back, redo the sub. They keep doing that 5 or 6 times. You know, I'm probably going to do the delay, deny the sub. Okay? An illegal substitute attempts to enter the set, and illegal replacement attempts to enter the set. Remember, replacement is the libero, and we said we were going to talk about that. This is the sub zone. All your subs should come into here. All right? Your libero replacements
Put down there. In line.
in line, where Rachel's standing, to here. Okay? So anytime that middle, usually a middle, 99% of the time it's going to be a middle, and that libero, that replacement is right here. Okay? Sometimes, if they're standing, or if the bench is really long and they're sitting way down here, that libero will go out to serve. She'll just run straight out. She's got to come into
gotta touch the floor.
replacement zone and then go. All right? It's when this girl enters the sub zone, we whistle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Or if that coach says sub, we whistle. But if you run into the sub zone and you whistle and they go, oh, we didn't mean to do that, either they have to sub or it's a delay. Okay?
But
You
get a
can give the
penalty.
coach both those options.
Yeah. I mean, the coach will go, you have to go ahead and go. If you're the R2,
Coach, you can take the delay.
no, you don't have to. You can take a delay instead.
Or you could call timeout.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. All right. You know. All right. So
would R2 give any hand signal when there's a
sure.
sub? What hand signal?
Okay, so we are at that now. That is rule number 10.
Signal violation. Right.
All right. So the R2 is here. Substitute comes running in. Tweet. And it's 2 rotations. Okay? 1, 2.
Okay.
All right? Not this. We're not trying to wind something up. All right? You know, so it's just 1, 2. All right? And it's 4, 8, go. She's 4. She's 8. I always do the number going in first. All right? Now, if somebody else runs up, let's say this is a totally different girl. All right? Double sub.
Oh yeah, I got it. I'll do this.
Darlene, right here. So if you have 2 subs come up or more, they have to stay outside of the zone until I've administered this one. 8-4, go. 10-6, go. Okay? All right. If I have one over here, what you might see me do is, if I have them coming up at the same time, ladies hold. Get this one. Normally, I will do the serving side first. Normally. Okay? Not always, because maybe, yeah, they're coming, but they're already here. But the thing to remember is, whenever they're up here, step back in. When you tell them to go, it's an usher signal, and it's this. And it's go, okay? All right? And then when the next one step in, go. But they have to wait until you tell them to go.
Rachel,
And
come
if
into
it's
the
on,
zone
if it's
and
on
go quick.
this side, it is go. Yeah. Okay? So it's whatever side you're on. Substitutions can only happen during dead balls. Okay? Not after the R1 is called for serve. Not during a replay or a reserve. All right? Has to be during a dead ball. The thing to remember on the libero is they can be in for anybody on the back row. If they come out, they have to be out for one play. But now, if they do a switch, if the libero comes off, that same person has to come on.
And you have an assistant. You have a person who is tracking that player, that one position, the libero, and the two people she's usually going in and out for.
Yeah, we don't do anything during that timeout. At the end of the timeout, we'll administer a sub if they send one. End of the timeout, I'm going, okay, that's 0-1. Coach? Oh, no? Okay, it's yours. If a player in a set, it can change different sets, but if 4 comes in for 8, then they can only sub for each other unless another player comes in. Okay, you can sub as many players into one position as you want.
You can sub the whole bench.
But once they come into that position, they can only sub into that position for that set. If there were more players on the bench, let's say they have 10 players, and all of them have been in the game, including a libero. So everybody's been in the game, and you have an injury. There are different procedures for that exceptional sub. Okay, first is by a teammate that's never played in the set. Okay, or a player that's played in that position. Okay, so if that player had been subbed out by somebody, they could sub that player in. Or they could sub somebody that has not played into that position. All right? The next one is any legal teammate on the bench, regardless of the previous position played. Okay? So if they've all subbed in, any of them could actually sub in for that player. It's an exceptional sub. All right? An exceptional sub is not counted as a substitution.
On the exceptional sub,
Exception.
let's say we've got Susie over here hasn't played yet.
Okay?
Does she have to be, and everybody else has played in different positions?
She has to be the sub.
So the only way we get a universal sub is if everybody's been in the game someplace.
Yes.
If everybody's been in the game someplace,
It's an
and
exceptional
she gets
sub.
hurt, then we get an except. But if we've got anybody that's not played,
That's the first choice. Timeouts and intermission. Timeouts are 60 seconds. All right? Make sure you have something that will time. Whether it's a stopwatch or whether you have something on your watch. I have something on my watch, so, no big deal. At 45 seconds, or if they're running it on the clock and it's down to 15 seconds, you give a warning whistle. Tweet, tweet. Double whistle. All right. When you call for a timeout, it's a double whistle. Tweet, tweet. I've got a timeout over here. Okay? Warning whistle at 15. Tweet, tweet. When the minute is over, tweet, tweet. Out on the court, okay? I've got, 01. All right? And the R1 should mimic your 01. And then you're going to give them the court out. Okay? If they come out ahead, I mean, maybe they're used to club, and they only do 30 seconds. All right. You ready? Everybody's out there? Okay. Tweet, tweet. Timeout's over. We're good. You got the court. Any stoppage of play that you do as an R2 is a double whistle, unless it's a violation. If it's a net violation, center court violation, you're doing one whistle, you're doing it loud, okay? And you're telling them what you got. But if you're doing a timeout, if you're doing a hold up, we got a ball on the court, hold up, I need to talk to the scorekeeper, anything like that, you're going to do a double whistle. A coach can call a timeout and can come over to you across the court if he disagrees with a rule that you've called. It's got to be a rule question, not a judgment question, a rule question. If you decide you kick that rule, then you do a replay, okay? If you say, no, I was correct on my rule, and you may need to get down and go over and look at the rule book. That's up to you. Depends on how well you know the rules, okay? If you say, no, I was correct, it cost him his timeout. Don't use electronics to review. Decisions based on judgment of the referees are final and not subject to review. So any judgment call is not reviewable. It's not something we're going to talk about. No, that's a judgment call, coach. Sorry. Injury, you have somebody goes down and you have to stop play 30 seconds. And, I mean, give them a little leeway. I mean, I'll start my watch, but they need to let you know at the end of 30 seconds, are they going to sub? Are they going to call a timeout? Or do they think she can still play? Okay? If she still plays, all right, coach, we need to go. All right? If she's injured, we're not moving her. We're not making them move her until they're ready to. But if it goes past 30 seconds, he has to sub her. Right? There's no choice there. Okay? And what I'll do, I mean, it says, at 30 seconds, you need to ask the coach if he's going to do what. I mean, I'm timing, okay, it's past 30 seconds. It's at 45 seconds. They decide what they're doing. Okay, coach, you went way over. You need to sub her, or is she going to play? I'm not going to sit there while he's trying to administer his injury. Coach, what are you going to do, coach? I need to know. I'm not going to bother him, but you keep time. If it goes over 30 seconds, there's going to be a sub, regardless of what happens. If he says, no, she can play, okay, coach, you way over. You need to sub her. She can come in the next play. Okay, but she's got to come out for it.
Jerry, really quick, with that timeout, say they are used to club, one team is used to club and they're already out there on the floor in that 30 seconds, and the other team is still talking, and the other team has a sub. Can you sub during that time?
No.
You have to wait till the other team is out there.
You wait until the timeout is over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
On injuries, you got a girl seriously hurt, you have to call an ambulance. They come out, they pick her up off the floor, cart her off. You're going to give them time to warm back up.
I'm probably going to use judgment on that. I mean, was it 30 minutes? Yeah, probably. I'm going to let them. But what we can do is maybe, it's going to be a while. Hey, coach, if you want to go out past, and you want to just let the girls pepper, hit the ball at each other, fine. just make sure you stay away from the girl that's on the court, okay? But use judgment on that. A full-blown warm-up, no, I'm probably not going to do that. In between sets, 3 minutes. Warning whistle at 2.5. So 30 seconds left, warning whistle. They should be starting to get back out on the court at that point. Okay? All right. There can be an intermission between sets 2 and 3. A 2-minute intermission. The home coach should tell you there's going to be one and should tell the other coach, and that might be something you talk about in your pre-match meeting, that there will be an intermission. So a 2-minute intermission between 2 and 3, and it has to be, it lays out what it has to be on here. I'm not going to go through it, but it's like, they're giving out awards or something like that, Conduct. So this is your cards. All right. She came and gave me my cards if I can find them. There they are. All right. I always put yellow, red. You can do it either way you want. I know people that put them in the back pockets. Put one in the back pocket, one in the front pocket. That way they know what they're reaching for whenever they're reaching. Okay. So yellow card is just unsportsmanlike conduct. It's not really bad or anything. It's something that, and oftentimes a lot of these girls do play club and they're used to a finger wag. Okay, so what you can do, kind of to warn them before you get to a card, is tweet, hey, 12, don't do that. Okay, and they'll settle down. But now if I have a girl that slams the ball underneath the net, tweet, hey, 14, don't do that. Now if she slams the ball underneath the net and hits a girl, oh yeah, hey, 12, captain, come here. Have a yellow card on number 12 for unsporting conduct, slamming the ball underneath the net, hit an opposing player. Okay, go tell your coach. The R2 can ask for a card. He should never pull a card out and tell me what he wants. If he wants a card, let's say he hears something from the bench. All right?
If you're the R2 and you want to request a card, you just hold the card on your chest. Okay. And then point to the team. Okay. And then he will immediately initiate score.
If any bench player, so any person on the bench, player, trainer, assistant coach, bus driver, don't care. If they're on the bench and they get a card, that coach is what we call seatbelted for the rest of the match. They have to remain seated. They can get up and greet girls. They can get up to ask the R2 a question. But they're not allowed to stand up and coach and all that kind of stuff. They have to be seated the rest of the match. Match. Match.
Timeouts they do.
Yeah, timeouts they can get up. Yeah. Anything like that, that's fine.
As long as they're not coaching.
No, they can.
Timeouts.
During timeouts.
Oh, okay,
During timeouts.
So not doing
They can't be seated and walk out. Susie, you need to go. No, coach. You need to be seated. Okay.
Okay.
You need to tell Susie from over there. Okay. All right. But red card. Red card for me is profanity. I'll say maybe minor violence. I don't know what it exactly says in here. Second offense. Yeah. Penalty is recorded in the comments. Oops, sorry. Red card is the first serious offense or second minor offense. Okay, so in some ways it's judgment on your part. I'm pretty easygoing. I told some of y'all the first week it was 7 years before I got a card. All right,
I'm easygoing. To give a red card, it's got to be kind of flagrant, for me. Like I said, for me, profanity definitely is a red card. I don't cuss. I don't want to be cussed at. Disqualification, I've never done, but that would be a fight. That would be maybe screaming through the net. Now, depending on what's going on, that might be a red card. That might be a disqualification. Depends on what's going on. Okay? That's your judgment. That's what you have to do. You need to turn and celebrate. But you can't land. All right? Or you can't land and go, yeah! Okay? I mean, anything through the net, and that's something you have to be aware of, because sometimes they're kind of doing it, they're just kind of standing there, and and you're up there, you can't really, you have to kind of be aware of what's going on. So, just be aware of, do they land, and I kind of watch, I'm watching the ball, but I'm kind of watching, they land, are they turning, or are they sitting there ready to say something or do something, What about spectators? You got somebody that's just bending your ear like crazy. And I know a bunch of y'all are basketball officials, so y'all are used to that. So you got somebody bending your ear like crazy. You cannot card the team. You can't card the coach. What you can do is match administrator. Coach, I need the match administrator. I need him to settle this guy down. Okay? If he doesn't settle him down, coach, or match administrator, I need him gone. He needs to leave or he needs to be quiet. One or the other.
That's what I tell my
We don't-
administrators for basketball.
Yeah.
Coach, either quiet him down or get him out of the gym.
Yeah. You're going to have loud parents, students in volleyball, but nothing like basketball. It's creeping in some, but we don't allow it.
We are big into sportsmanship, no matter players, coaches, spectators, anybody. I have had a gentleman, a student, escorted out of the gym because he yelled at a girl, "You should be a linebacker on our football team." She's a big girl. She wasn't a small girl. She was a big girl. She is already in skin-tight spandex with a skin-tight uniform. She doesn't need that. She did not need that. She did not deserve that. I asked for him to be escorted out. Afterwards, the post administration, who happens to be an old coach, he's not coaching now, but he used to be a coach, we know him, came up to me and said, "I'm going to get a phone call tonight." And I said, "Why?" That was the president of the school board's son. And I said, "Art, he has a problem. You give him my phone number. I will gladly talk to him." I did not have a problem doing that because that was unacceptable.
We don't allow anything like that. Okay?
Unacceptable. And that's coming
Now,
from
cheering
a
for
big
your team,
You go,
you start
girl.
yelling. You start yelling stuff like that at the other team or whatever. Used to you could not even yell at the other team. You can now, but used to you could cheer for your team. You could not yell at the other team. That's changed, But if it's any kind of derogatory, like Megan's talking, anything like that, you need to shut it down. Guys, I had to skip a lot. Okay, when you get your rule books in, read through the rule books. If you need answers to questions, contact Art, contact me, Steve, whoever. We'll be glad to talk to you. The case book. When you look at the case book, read each thing, and in the case book, it'll give a situation. And it might give 4 different situations in that. Read the first one, look down and see what the answer is. Read the second one, look down and see what the answer is. Sometimes you read all of it, and then you get down to the end and it goes, A and C illegal, B and D and E are legal. And you're going, wait a
What was the
minute.
difference?
Wait a minute, read each one, and then as you get into it more, you'll be able to read all of them and figure it out and remember. But don't try and do it right off the bat. First time I looked at the casebook, I was lost. I mean, so study your rules. Study your rules.